Mr. Deputy Speaker, my series of questions are directed to the Minister for Environment. But first, I would like to also take this opportunity to wish all of us and all forest people in this nation. We are a forest nation. We house the third largest rainforest in the world, on 0.05% of the world's real estate, but housing 7% of the world's biodiversity, producing enough oxygen for 80 million people. Something we should be proud of. 25% of the world are forest people, Deputy Speaker. We are a forest people. Yesterday was International Forest Day. It was designated International Forest Day on the 28th of November, 2012. And I would like to state that we should make an effort to celebrate this day as a forest nation every year and ask the relevant ministers, our government, to please take note so that this date can be recorded and celebrated every year as forest people. I know the good Minister for Forest is taking note, and he will ensure that this happens when he returns. My questions are to the Minister for Environment and Conservation. There are a series of questions. One, the question is in relation to COP26, where it was announced that a total of $17 billion was allocated for forest nations. $17 billion. This was to curb illegal deforestation. This was to put in place policies to protect, conserve, preserve forest environments. And my question is this, Deputy Speaker, what efforts has the Minister undertaken to ensure that Papua New Guinea is first in line to have access to these funds? If you can advise us of this. Number two question is in relation to an ongoing activity or effort that's undertaken in my province, that of illegal logging in Collingwood Bay. The matter is before court. But in regards to this specific matter, it is not in court. That is the matter of pollution of the waterways. A report which I presented to the then minister, the current minister, sorry, Deputy Speaker, and he actually issued a stop work notice using his powers, and a notice was given for the company to stop logging, to pay a fine. Well, they have not taken note of this. They are continuing to log illegally, they are continuing to trespass, they continue to pollute the waters there. So I want to ask the minister, what is he going to do about this now? Is it now the trend that we must issue fines and warnings but then ignore them when they ignore our laws? What do we do? Can the minister advise us as to what his department is doing about this particular transgression that is continuous and ongoing by that particular company in my province? Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Minister for Environment.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the good governor for asking this series of questions. But before I do that, I also like to take this opportunity on behalf of my family and the people of Chuave to pass and convey our sincere condolences to the late Minister for Commerce and Industry, who was in fact one of those ministers that spoke very little, but what he achieved spoke volumes. Having said that, I'd also take this, I'd like to basically come back to the series of questions that the good governor had asked. Yes, arising out of COP26, I've got a ministerial statement which basically I will present during this session of Parliament, which will basically outline some of the steps that we are taking to address that, to address some of the issues that he had raised. But the fact that he had raised those questions, what I just want to inform members of Parliament is that we have concluded our framework in which we have come with as to how the state could benefit and participate and claw from this 17 billion, in fact it's 100 billion USD that has been allocated as part of global climate funds. Under the framework, there will be a structure that will be very elaborative, because today under RED Plus, we have both the voluntary carbon sales arrangements and also we have the compliance arrangements. In terms of the voluntary carbon arrangements, these are arrangements that are done by landowners who, of course, own the resources. They themselves have engaged with developers outside of the country and come up with an arrangement as to how they would want to go and participate in carbon trading. Whereas in the compliance of which we, or the arrangements that we now are advocating, and the fact that this will be designed as part of this framework is so that the state will claw back. Simply because under the present arrangements, the state has got no visibility whatsoever. Under the voluntary arrangements, as well as any other forms of activities that's going on. This is the reason why we have come up with the framework, of which I am pretty sure that my department will be presenting it to CACC, which will come into cabinet. Under that framework, it will spell out whether you go on the voluntary carbon sales or, for that matter, under the compliance, where we value, under the compliance, we would like to value all our carbon stock in this country.
Honourable Minister, we have a point of order. Governor, what's your point of order?
Deputy Speaker, with due respect to the Minister, the question had nothing to do with carbon trade. In fact, I've got a series of questions about carbon trade and how that industry is being poorly managed in this country, and I'll ask those series of questions later this week. But the questions I asked now were in relation to what the Minister was doing about the $17 billion that were offered for forestry purposes, forestry nations, etc. And then the second question was, what's the Minister doing about the stop work notice that he has issued for the illegal logging in my province by a company operating illegally in Collingwood Bay, of which the company has completely ignored his notice and are continuing to work with complete contempt and defiance of our laws. Very simple. If he can just answer those and then hold his comments for the carbon trading matters for later, because I will ask him a series of questions about that particular industry and how it's been poorly managed by especially his officers in his department. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Governor, you seem to be repeating your question again. The Honourable Minister, our question time has already left, so can you just get straight to
what I am trying to say is that how the state will claw and have access to those 17 billion kina and all $17 billion and any other funds that are there out in the world as part of global carbon markets, or instead of global, the global climate funds. This is the framework that is going to come before cabinet that will basically spell that out. This will prevent cowboys from coming in through the back door, through the windows, up through the roof. This is basically what is going to happen. On the second question, Mr. Speaker, what my department could have done, we have done that, and that is that we have penalized them. But they are operating under a permit that has been granted by the Forestry Department. I cannot assume the responsibility of the Forest Minister and basically to terminate the timber permits, because this is not within my mandate. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Minister.